Have you ever stopped to think about your true financial level? Not the level you believe you have, more the level you wish you had, but your true level, the one that appears when you look at your life without filters, excuses, or justifications. Most people spend their entire lives believing they are better off than they actually are, while others live convinced they are worse off than they really are, but very few know exactly where they stand. And this lack of awareness is precisely what keeps so many people stuck in the same place, repeating the same mistakes and experiencing the same challenges that seem to follow each year like a shadow. That's why today I want to ask you a simple but profoundly transformative question. What is your financial level? And I need you to hear this question not as a judgment, but as the beginning of a turning point. Because when you truly understand your level, you understand what you need to change, what you need to abandon, and what you need to start immediately. Perhaps you are at a point where you feel stagnant, working harder and harder and seeing less and less results. Maybe you are exhausted, trying to balance bills, desires, and needs, but without feeling like you are making any progress. Or maybe you are at a point in life where you earn well, but you don't understand where the money goes, you don't feel any progress, and you live with the feeling of always chasing something that never arrives. And there is also the possibility that you've changed certain habits, started investing, built up savings, but still live with the uncomfortable feeling that you are far from what you could really achieve. Regardless of where you are, there is a pattern that connects all these situations: a lack of clarity. People don't get stuck financially because of a lack of willpower. They get stuck because of a lack of understanding. And this lack of understanding creates repetitive cycles, emotional patterns that become financial, and decisions that turn into accumulated consequences. It's like driving a car in the dark, without headlights, trying to guess the way and believing that, at some point, by luck, you will get where you want to go. But you don't. And you don't get there because nobody reaches an important destination just by relying on luck. You get there with direction. And that's why understanding your financial level is so powerful. Because most people live at a level they don't admit. Some believe they are at the level of stability, but in reality, they are at the level of survival. Others think they are at the level of comfort, but they are only at the level of temporary relief. And still others think they are already at the level of growth, when in reality they are just accumulating responsibilities, not assets. All of this creates an illusion. An illusion is the greatest enemy of evolution. It is not the salary, it is not the job, it is not the crisis, it is not the economy. It is the illusion. When you are at the survival level, you live in firefighting mode. Everything is for yesterday, everything is urgent, everything is immediate. Money comes and goes as if it is a life of its own. There is no security, no planning, no room to breathe. It is the famous cycle of I earned it, I paid for it is over. And many people live like this for years, believing it is normal, believing it is a part of adult life, believing it will never change. And when you stay at this level for too long, you start to confuse survival with routine. This makes you accept what you should reject, and reject what could transform your life. At the stability level, things seem a little better. The bills are paid, you have some control, maybe even a small reserve. But everything still depends exclusively on your work. If you stop, everything stops. There is no margin, no sweat, no multiplication. There is only maintenance. It is the level that most traps people, because it gives the feeling that everything is fine, but any unforeseen event is enough to dismantle everything. Just one illness, a dismissal, an emergency, an atypical month, and the whole structure collapses like a house of cards. This level is treacherous because you feel you are advancing, but in reality you are just balancing plates. And nobody grows by balancing plates. A person only grows when they build, when they multiply, when they increase their ability to see the future before it happens. At the comfort level, things finally seem to stabilize. Here, you can finally breathe. You no longer live in a tight spot, you have more control, you can plan things, travel, consume, invest a little more. This is the level where many people believe they have arrived. But comfort is the trap that most hinders evolution. When you reach it, you no longer feel pain. And without pain, you don't feel urgency. And without urgency, you stop moving. And when you stop moving, life continues moving without you. That is why so many people become comfortable for milliseconds and then fall backward. Because comfort is not the final level. It is only the middle of the road. The problem is that few recognize this. And the truth is that this level is only safe when you transform comfort into construction. If you don't transform it, it becomes stagnation. And stagnation becomes silent regression. Now, the most important level, the growth level, is where people who change their lives truly begin to exist. At this level, you weigh not just living in the present, you weigh building your future. You understand the power of team, planning, strategy, and consistency. You begin to see money not as something to spend, but as something to multiply. Every real becomes a seed. Every decision, you start to see that money is not about buying things, it is about buying freedom. And freedom is priceless, but it is a method. And then comes the most important question. Which of these levels are you at? Not the level you like to be at. Not the level your family believes you are at. Not the level you appear to be at. But the real level, the one only you know, the one that appears when you look deeply into your financial life and answer without hiding. Because only when you admit your current level can you move to the next one. Denying where you are keeps you exactly where you are. And perhaps, right now, as you listen to this, you were realizing you were at a different level than you imagined. Maybe you've realized you were still just surviving. Maybe you've realized you were only hanging by a thread in terms of stability. Maybe you were stuck in comfort, fooling yourself with small breaks while letting years go by without real growth. Or maybe you were already growing, but still need to learn how to accelerate. The good news is that understanding your level is half the battle. The other half is deciding not to stay there, because financial level is not their identity. It is a phase, and phases change when attitudes change, and this is where everything starts to change. When you see that the next level is not a dream, it is not a sense, it is not a luck, it is a consequence. A consequence of clarity, consistency, correct decisions, and a mindset that abandons excuses and embraces responsibility. You don't control the past, you don't control crises, you don't control the economy, but you control what you do with what you have. And that is what determines your next level. And if you truly want to move forward, I need to make one last invitation. Look inside. Ask yourself where you are, but especially where you want to be in those months. Not in this year, in those months. Because a year is enough time to change everything, as long as you decide today. And if this video made you reflect, comment here what level you believe you are at now. Don't be ashamed. Clarity is always the first step. And if this content helped you, leave a like, subscribe and activate notifications. Because here I will show you exactly how to change levels in a simple, direct and real way. Your transformation starts now.